The last thing you want after all those hard weeks of training and preparation is a bad transition from swim to bike. As you know, that bike leg is the longest of the three legs. And so if you want to have your best overall race experience and avoid feeling crappy when you get on that bike, you've got to prepare for T1. So I've got 5 quick tips for you that will get you from swim to bike feeling good and as fast as possible. Okay, so tip 1. After you get there, you rack your bike, you got your transition spot, find out where the swim comes in and actually go over there and take that view as if you were coming in from the swim and sort of trace those steps. So when you come out of in the race, it's not the first time you've walked that way. And that way, you take those steps, you say, okay, my bike's the 4th rack on the right, 3rd one in. And that way you know that, so when you come out of the swim and it's a little bit crazy and you're not thinking as clearly, you know where to go. 4th rack, 3rd one in. The other thing you can do when you're retracing those steps is have a nice bright towel or something that you can identify, that you can find it quicker. Once you've done that, then take a look at, okay, which direction do you go to head out onto the bike? And so you're tracing those steps from entering the transition area to exiting it before the race even starts. Okay, number 2 is actually during the swim. So as you're finishing the swim, the last couple hundred yards, maybe the last 2 buoys, or at least the last buoy minimum, depending on how many buoys they've got out there, but as you're approaching the shore, start increasing your kick. You want to get that blood flow to the legs so that A, when you stand up, it's not as disorienting, but B, so that you're ready to start to run, up transition, or walk fast, and then more importantly, get on that bike and have that blood already in those muscles. And you've practiced that in training and doing kicking drills, so you should be ready for that, right? Okay, good. All right, so number 2 is actually as you're approaching the shore, your hand, when you do your stroke, is going to hit the ground. At that point, don't get up just yet. You want to keep utilizing the water and gliding through as close to shore as possible. I would say at least 2, if not 3 to 4 times where your hand hits. Then at that point, if it's not completely rocky and sharp and things, then actually use your hands to push up out of the water. Number 3 is actually as you're taking those first couple of steps, take those goggles, put them onto the forehead. Don't take them off. Don't put them in your hand. You don't want to have anything in your hands as you go up toward transition. And the reason why is reason number 4 of having a good T1 is that as you start moving out of the water onto the land, you're actually going to start taking off that wetsuit. So get it off your shoulders and get those arms out, do one by one, and down to the waist. Now you can really walk quickly or even get into a run up toward transition. It's a lot less restrictive, and it also saves time to actually do that while you're moving as opposed to taking off from your shoulders and arms when you get to the transition area. Also, a bonus, there's a fly bothering me here, is if there's a race with wetsuit strippers, which is people who will actually help take your wetsuit off, they're usually fairly close to the swim exit. And so in order for them to really help you, you've got to get it off your shoulders down to the waist. As you approach them, you quick lay on your back, put your feet up. They'll grab the arms and the body part of the chest part of the wetsuit and pull off the legs the rest of the way. You'll get back up, they'll hand it to you, and then you can actually run up to transition with no wetsuit on because you're carrying it. But a lot of races don't have that, so at this point, you got it around your waist and you're headed up towards transition. Once you enter transition, you know where you're going because that was number 1. You've already rehearsed it, so you head right to your spot, and all you got to do is get it off from the rest of your waist and off your ankles. If you do have some trouble, you can bring a fancy race bucket, something like this, that you can actually sit down on to get it off your wetsuit much easier. A lot of races, you don't have enough room in transition, so you could test that out, but if you don't use the bucket, you could always sit on the ground. But hopefully you don't need to use the bucket or sitting on the ground because the wetsuit should come off fairly easily. You've hopefully practiced, right? Yes. And you've hopefully applied one or both of the products, so something like Body Glide, which is more the deodorant, and Tri Slide, which is a spray that really, especially putting on your ankles, your wrists, your neck, really helps not only prevent chafing, but helps you get that wetsuit off really quickly so that as soon as you're done, you can grab that bike and helmet head out onto the bike, and you are done with T1. I'll put these product links below if you're interested. I use them for every race. And number 5 is actually, as you're moving up towards transition, take advantage of that walk or run and get the wetsuit off the shoulders, out of the arms, down to the waist, so you don't have much more to do once you enter transition. Okay, let's sum up the 5 tips for your best T1. The first one actually is before the race, where you're actually tracing your steps from where you'd enter transition from the swim, going to where you have your bike racked, and then walking through as to where you head out onto the bike. Tip 2 is actually in the swim, getting that kick going to prepare the legs for the exiting the water and onto the bike. Tip 3 is actually letting your hands hit the water a couple of times as you hit the ground a couple of times, rather as you approach the shore, to utilize as much of the swimming as possible. Number 4 is pushing off that ground to help you stand up because it's shallow enough, and putting those goggles on top of the head, nothing in the hands, because tip 5 is as you walk or run to transition, you're getting that wetsuit off the shoulders, off the arms, and down to the waist, so you don't have much to do when you actually enter transition. Now, before the race even starts, you can actually go to a quiet place. If you're ready to go, it's 10 minutes before, your swim warm-up's done, you're just waiting for the gun to go or another wave to go in front of you. You can actually visualize these things where as you visualize yourself kicking, visualizing yourself hitting that ground for a couple of strokes, visualize yourself standing up, doing the goggles, taking it off. Visualize and do that 3, 4, 5 times, or even just one's helpful, but the point is doing it multiple times before you actually do it. Your brain will be more on autopilot, and it won't be as difficult or hard to remember. You'll just do it. All right, I hope that video was helpful for you. Please put a comment if you have any other Transition 1 tips to give yourself that best experience. There'll be a new video next week on Transition 2. And until then, I will see you on the trails. Hit that red subscribe button. Did I say that? I don't think I did. Hit that red subscribe button so you don't miss another video.